Good afternoon, dear friends. Welcome to Ukraine Media Center. I'm Olga Atamanova. We are supported by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. And right now in our studio we have Yurii Shchyhol, head of the State Service for Special Telecommunications and Information Security in Ukraine. Welcome, Yurii. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Please tell us about cyber fighting in Ukraine for these almost 2 months since the beginning of invasion. Good afternoon, dear friends. I will start with the subject which has been in the recent day very actively discussed in our internet community about the use of Starlink terminals by Ukrainian citizens and generally use of the telecommunication channel. Literally several hours ago, a decision was made, initiated by our service and coordinated with the Vice Prime Minister Mikhail Fedorov, that in the wartime those terminals can be used by everybody. All citizens of Ukraine can use them, and all organizations and companies, be it state-owned or non-state-owned, can use it. Even before that decision, there was no prohibition, as somebody allegedly said, trying to discredit the whole idea, but there were some regulations, some restrictions on the use of those terminals, and we have removed them due to the work of our whole team. Now about cyber security and cyber protection. I'll start with saying that as early as 1 month before Russian invasion in Ukraine, there have been wide-scale cyber attacks against our state authorities, about their information systems, and on January 14th there was the first big cyber attack, and as a result of our cooperation with the professional community and cooperation between all governmental authorities and the whole cybersecurity system, it was resisted. It was repelled. Now we have statistics whereby cyber attacks have increased by a factor of 3 compared with last year. That's about the number. Their quality decreased recently because the enemy cannot prepare as much as they were able to prepare. Before that, the enemy cannot spend time on preparations now, because the enemy now mostly spends time on protecting themselves, because it turned out that their systems are also vulnerable. Ukraine behaved in quite patient way in cybersecurity, just protecting its own interests. But now, due to global cyber community, we have seen that Russia has not been very advanced, as advanced as many countries in cybersecurity aspect. And now mostly attacks are about against governmental authorities, media resources. We saw several attempts to attack the energy sector and logistics. And in cyberspace, they pursue the same goals like marauders. They want to make as much damage as possible to our state, to our infrastructure, and not only military infrastructure, but it's mostly about civilian infrastructure. They don't care about damaging just military infrastructure. They also damage usual citizens, even though they say they only damage military sites. Their next task is destabilizing situation in our country. That's their goal. They dream of seeing Ukraine as part of their country, their state, but that will never happen, because Ukrainian state has its own history, its own way of development. And we have to mention that cyber attacks are not only about governmental authorities and infrastructure, it's about each and every citizen. Now we are seeing that there are more spam mails, and they try to gather information about citizens to get some entry points to various systems in our state. So now we emphasize some simple cyber hygiene rules even more. You should use sophisticated passports, change them regularly, don't open any suspicious emails and links, and there has now been a lot of that. And certain our next state cyber protection center publish some messages, some statements every day about spam mails and attempts to access your private gadgets on a large scale. We can say that currently Ukraine has been successfully resisting cyber attacks carried out against it by Russian Federation and by those groups related to the military and law enforcement agencies of the Russian Federation. This is a result of our regulatory changes, which were made based on the results of following that cyber attack on the 14th of January, and consolidation of efforts of various agencies. I say that since 2014 there has never been such consolidation between National Coordination Center, Ministry for Digital Transformation, Cyber Police, Intelligence Community, all those agencies, and most importantly, we see real private-public partnership when professionals from the market, experts from this market, cooperate with the government without getting any money from that, without getting any profit, but they have been working on improving cybersecurity of our state. We have already made changes to our criminal code of Ukraine about legalizing bug bounty activities and research on cybersecurity of state information resources and state registries. We have been working on changes to our cyber legislation, and I think that very soon those will also be approved, because everybody has been working in an intensified way. We have somehow managed to streamline bureaucratic procedures and streamline the approval procedure of various laws and regulations. The next subject for our services jointly with telecom operators and mobile operators is ensuring telecommunications for Ukrainian citizens. This is probably our main priority, because in any and every village, in most remote one, in temporarily occupied territories, we need telecommunications for people to understand, citizens to understand what's going on in the country, that somebody cares about that somebody remembers them. That's our main task. And again, based on the cooperation between all stakeholders, we managed to ensure telecommunications even in those territories, unfortunately, temporarily occupied by our enemies. We have internet access in Ukraine, be it landlines or mobile access. The enemy does not even understand how to destroy our communications. They know how internet connection, internet access is structured there in Russia, and they try to physically destroy certain access, certain points, certain towers. But here in Ukraine, the communications are structured in a completely different way. Sometimes even our government doesn't know where all our fiber optic cables are, because this is the area where we have had the least amount of regulations in Ukraine. So with all those technologies, for example, in the last 3 years, mobile operators have invested a lot of money in redundancy, in spare channels, in their data centers, in backup systems. So now our citizens do have access to communications. They can receive information. Sometimes it's worse. In some regions, we push the enemy away from those regions, but the communications quality is a bit lower there because some infrastructure has been destroyed. We have some places where the electricity supply, for example, has not been completely restored, even around Kyiv and Bucha and Irpin, and people have been working on that 24/7. Energy companies are working to restore electricity supply. Telecom companies, mobile operators have been working 24/7 to restore their equipment. But unfortunately, a lot of equipment has been destroyed, which has to be recovered and restored and replaced. Another area is governmental telecommunications. That's priority for us as servicemen. We are a uniformed agency, and we have to provide communications for state authorities, for highest officials, and I can reassure you that there are communications, although state authorities and top leaders of the country do have communication channels between them, stable communications, and the enemy will not be able to destroy it. Thank you, Yurii. I cannot but ask you, is our understanding correct that since now anybody, any citizens of Ukraine can use Starlink without any obstacles? Any and every citizen of Ukraine could do it even before that, and there was no prohibition. There was just some explanation, some clarification and regulations. Nobody said that there is any decision of the national regulator or national governance management center and control center under our agency. Nobody established that prohibition, but now there is every sort of legal basis to use it, and don't worry about using it. Okay, got it. Now I'd also to ask you, recently there were some opinion polls, some surveys, and they showed that our people, Ukrainians, very often use, for example, Viber to communicate between themselves. Maybe you would provide some advice what to use or what should not be used, what's not worth using, and what are the threats when using such channels, what are the risks when, for example, using Viber. Look, as the head of a state agency, I cannot recommend or not recommend using any tools because no one messenger has any state certificate. But I personally have 14 messengers installed, and I am using them to some extent or not using them. The key recommendation is this: use messengers with open source code, because if you understand it, you can check it, where it sends information. There is a lot of such messengers, Signal, Wire, Briar, a lot of those. I will not advertise those, but everybody uses whatever is more convenient for them. Now about security, if you properly set up your messenger with two-factor authentication, and if you use it in a responsible way, if you use that messenger only with contacts whom you trust, then any and every messenger would be secure. But the main thing is don't exchange information which may compromise you or any confidential information, any messenger. Thank you. Now we see that, yeah, sometimes even in Mariupol people can connect, and we understand that that's about a lot of work by all of our agencies who manage to ensure such communication. So thank you very much for what you're doing. Thank you for joining us. Maybe you'd have any other advice for those listening to us about principles of, say, cyber hygiene, which has to be maintained during the war. Well, but I already mentioned cyber hygiene. Use two-factor authentication. Use it wherever possible. Use complicated passwords, change them regularly. And about wishes, trust Ukrainian armed forces. We'll definitely win. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. Thank you, dear friends. You're welcome to monitor our announcements. And I'd like to remind you that at 2 p.m. we'll have the spokesman of the State Border Service of Ukraine, and we'll discuss with him situation on the Ukrainian border. Thank you. Stay with us.